Good afternoon, runners, but more importantly, good after marathon runners. My name is Coach Steve with New York Roadrunners, and congratulations to everyone who completed the TCS New York City Marathon. No matter your finish time, no matter what happened, you completed the race, and you have an amazing medal to prove it, to put around your neck. So congratulations to everyone out there. As I said, my name is Coach Steve. I'm here with Anil from HSS. Anil, you're actually live right now from the HSS Recovery Zone in Central Park. So thank you for joining us. Those watching, Anil's might be a little slow connection on your end, Anil, but thank you for spending some time with our runners to talk about the marathon.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to talk about it. It's the best day of the year. And of course, this is the second best day of the year, watching all the finishers come back, sharing their stories, and we get some good recovery in.
That's right. It's all about recovery today and celebrating what everyone did to get to the finish line. It was a long 16 weeks, 20 weeks, 24 weeks to get there. But guys, we did it, and an amazing, gorgeous day we had yesterday. I remember running through the streets. They were so narrow in Brooklyn, because just how many spectators were out there cheering for everyone, and how much fun it was going up First Avenue, how alive the Bronx felt, how hard it was at mile 23. But that finish line was just a magical moment for all of us. So thank you, Anil, for joining us. Thanks to HSS for being part of this chat. So runners, we have a lot to talk about today, but we, of course, want to hear from all of the runners. So if you have questions for myself or Anil, maybe an injury question, maybe something happened out there, put that in the chat. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, we're moderating those. So put those questions in the chat, because this chat is all about you guys, the runners. We want to hear from you and how it went out there. So celebrations, how it went, questions you have about the day out there, the weeks coming up as well. Put those in the chats. We're going to talk about the TCS New York City Marathon recovery. We're going to talk about what's next. We're going to talk about today, tomorrow, the next day. So let us know how it went. So Anil, let's start this off as people put this question there. Marathon recovery. As coaches, we say it starts the minute you cross that finish line. So now we're 24 hours later from a lot of people when they finish the race, or 20 hours, whenever they finish the race. What are runners feeling? What's that common feeling we have? I know what I have, but what is the common thing a lot of runners are feeling right now about 24 hours later?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what I like to call the zombie walk. You see it all throughout the city. Everyone's walking pretty stiffly, especially going down, let's say, the subway steps or something like that. Everyone's just trying to get from point A to point B, especially coming in here today, getting their medals engraved. So people are going to feel that intense soreness throughout their entire body, but more specifically throughout their legs. People might feel some twinges of pain, every other step that they might take. And I think the one of the bigger things is that people will feel that sense of fatigue, like lethargy, throughout their entire body. They may just want to rest all day, but as we know, the best thing for recovery is good constant movement, of course at a low level, so that way your body gets a chance to recover properly, stay lubricated, and stay pliable.
So I love that kind of take, is staying active. We're not sitting on the couch, Anil. We're not just laying around. That's kind of not the opposite of what we want, but we want to stay active. No hard movements, of course. No 20-mile runs for anyone today. What's the best thing we can do? And you kind of touched on it, but I'd love to build on that. The best thing we can do to speed up recovery in the days, weeks following today. Is it walking? Is it cycling? When can we run again? What's that process look like for runners?
Yeah, I think, if it's your first one, you're going to really go through some trial and error right now. But if you're pretty experienced, maybe been through a few smaller races, you kind of have a sense of a recovery method. But ideally, you want to stay as hydrated as possible. You want to get that good protein in as well, too, to kind of help with the rebuilding process. And then, of course, you want to do things to kind of keep yourself moving, again, at that low level. So whether that be walking, whether that be, a stationary bike, hopping on a city bike a little bit, definitely foam rolling, stretching a bit too. If you have the means of doing compression boots like we have here at Tavern on the Green in the recovery zone, that will definitely help with recovery. Just anything that you can to kind of help move your muscles, help push all that soreness, all that fluid that's built up in your body. And again, I really think nutrition and hydration is super important because, again, you're working from inside out with nutrition, and then everything that we do here is working from the outside in. So it's a kind of a holistic approach there.
Talk about what you're doing over there, Anil. Talk about what the HSS Recovery Zone is, where you're located, how can they find you guys? What are you doing out there? Because I want to come and join you, Anil. So where can we find you?
Yeah, so I've been here at the Recovery Zone for 5 years now. Today is my 6th-year anniversary at HSS, so just missed 1 year of the Recovery Zone. But basically, here I think it's even better than previous years. We have people coming in. They're going through some guided stretching, guided foam rolling. We're answering any questions that they might have here. So basically, if they have little aches and pains, we have our exercise physiologists, our physical therapists here, kind of teasing out different injuries. If something seems a little bit more sinister, something a little more red flaggy that we've talked in previous chats, then we might have one of our doctors here, our physicians on site, see them as well. We also have our Normatec compression boots as well here too, and people are using them. They're getting some good recovery from the tips of their toes all the way up through their hips there. So we have like slots ready for people to come in and use those. And I think the best thing about this day is that people are coming in and they're getting the reassurance that they had maybe on race day, like, oh man, mile 19, this started happening. They would come in, tell us about it, and then we can kind of tease out potentially what's going on there. We can give them the right type of treatment in terms of advice for exercise or stretching, and then of course we're educating them about our services that we provide here too for the hospital. That being different types of testing to improve their performance, but looking at the body from a holistic side of things for each runner to get them back, training again.
I love that so much. That's really important for the runners, local runners, of course, or international. You guys are there to work with those runners throughout the day, Marathon Monday, as we call it. So you talked about, nutrition and why it's important. You talked about hydrating for all those runners out there. Make sure you're hydrating. I'm sitting here drinking water while I'm on camera. There you go. Anil's out there. Long day for you as well. So what does that nutrition look like? You talked about it, but I want to spend more time. We're eating, but what are we eating? How is it affecting our body? Are we just drinking water when we're thirsty? Is that too late? I'd love to go in depth about what that nutrition looks like from the inside out.
Yeah. So I think, like we've talked about, in other chats, like, the marathon is the celebration of all of your training, right? So that goes for your recovery too. So you kind of know what you need to put into your body to recover somehow. So for instance, like I think, some good nutritional recovery would definitely be staying hydrated through means of water, but also through different electrolyte substances, the one that kind of suits yourself the best, and then of course, taking in good healthy proteins, however you can get that, good leafy greens for, again, some good recovery there, and really trying to stay away from feeling too heavy, today as well too, because again, you want to keep moving, you want to have that energy to have that recovery as well too.
I love that. That's really good information, especially as lunch approaches or dinner approaches, wherever we're located. Look at those kind of things for your food. Last night, I got home from the race at a hard finish, and I went for the burrito after I finished, and it tasted great, but probably wasn't the most recovery food. But I just needed carbs in my system. Anything I could do at that point. So we had a local burrito place in town, Tito's Burrito. Thank you, Tito's, for the help. But I needed something. Probably wasn't the most healthy from a marathon perspective, but it got me with what I needed at the time.
Absolutely.
So we have some great questions from runners. So let's go over to some questions. Right. This is my favorite part, hearing from runners. So first question says, I ran the TCS New York City Marathon Marathon yesterday, and I started to cramp at mile 20. What can I do to ensure this doesn't happen? That's a really good question. And I think a lot of runners get that, kind of working on cramping, whether it's a side stitch, a calf cramp, kind of what's the best way to avoid that next time?
Yeah, I think this is a very tough question, only because you just really never know how your body is going to react on that day of performance, right? You can train for everything, but that's the beauty of training, to kind of tease out what works best for you. I think the best thing, to answer this question would be that, you want to control your breathing. So there's some way that, where you have that stitch in the side there, where, your diaphragm gets a little locked up there. You're not getting that full oxygen inhalation, exhalation. So I think controlling your breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, forcing that diaphragm to work properly, rather than using accessory muscles where you kind of get air trapped in there, and that's where you kind of get that cramp happening. And of course, proper hydration and nutrition to kind of fuel those muscles from the inside out.
I love that so much. That's a really cool answer. Does anything with cramping have to do with nutrition or fueling along the course? Like, is it lack of also water or too much water? Is that affected at all or no?
Yeah, I think so too. And again, it's about finding what works for you. So I think knowing when to take that energy bar, take that different supplement at your certain mile markers is going to be throughout your training regimen. Knowing how much to stay hydrated. I know for myself, if I'm drinking too much water while I'm running, I will have that stitch in the side. That'll happen. It's about finding that happy medium that works best for you. Some people sweat a little bit more than others, therefore that water is getting expelled from the body a lot quicker and more efficiently. And some people, they retain a little bit more water. So, it really depends on what works best for you. I think, a tip for next time is potentially journaling that, throughout your training regimen, and knowing again how much supplements to take throughout certain mile markers and how much water you're drinking as well too.
I love that. Really good question. Hope that helped the runners. What do we have next question coming in here? It says, hi, I have done my long runs and ran 20 miles in training without cramping. And yesterday around mile 8, I started cramping. Do you have any advice on why this happens? Similar last time, does kind of the same answer? And I'm assuming very similar kind of question here.
I think so. I think very similar answer. And then just to cut to the chase, I think it could honestly be as simple as the fact that today, this was the day, right? This was marathon day. You're a little bit more tighter, a little bit more nerves in your body, a little bit, so it's just a different level that you're used to. And so therefore you could have cramped a little bit sooner because of that.
I find with the TCS New York City Marathon, we're kind of almost running or we're doing a marathon before the marathon. It's getting to the start line. It's taking a ferry, a bus, and then you're hanging out for a while. And so our nutrition, our breakfast, our fluids are a little off because we usually don't run a long run at 11:30 or 10:20. It's usually early in the morning. So really nailing that down in your training will help, maybe next year. In your next race, figure out those longer mornings. It's a hard thing to do the first time because it's like a marathon before a marathon. It's a long day for us out there. So hopefully that we can kind of fix that for next year. All right. What do we have for next question? All right. Yesterday during the TCS New York City Marathon, I lost a lot of salt, even though I was drinking Gatorade and water and taking salt tablets. Do you have any tips to help with this? I think it's a really good question to know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, that's tough, especially if you've been doing all that stuff. I think potentially the other thing to look at is the amount of clothing that you had on too. If that is kind of the normal amount of clothing that you had, potentially it could be something else, right? Maybe the nutrition was off the night before, 2 days before, and therefore, some salt was leaving the body a little bit quicker. If you were dressed a little bit too too heavy, then potentially you're sweating faster, taking away a lot of that nutrients as well. That's a little tough question, but it seems like you were doing a lot of the right things. Is just to say that potentially the brand that you're using may not be the best for you right now. Maybe it was good for you during training, and maybe you need to try something else. But again, that's maybe a question for your next set of training.
Lovely. Great answer. I think we have one more for the time being. If you have any questions, please submit them in the chat. We're going to grab them at our next segment. So let's have the last question here. I was told to continue taking salt electrolytes, but doesn't that lead to swelling? I asked to get a handle of navigation recovery. My knees are a little sore. What do you take on that, Anil?
I think just reading this potentially, if we're talking about afterwards, again, I don't think you need to drown yourself in salt and electrolytes. I think just something along the lines of a good healthy dose. If you're talking about during the race, same thing. But again, salt does retain water. However, if you are exercising and if you are performing active recovery, like as you should be doing today and weeks after today, then you shouldn't really have to deal with swelling, because again, your body is pumping all that stuff out of there. And so the better that you recover, the more that you can pump any swelling out of your lower extremities. Your knee is probably sore just from the load that you had yesterday. But again, as long as you continue to practice active recovery, it will kind of minimize any risk for any red flag symptoms.
So with this runner, the sore knee, nothing to really, as far as you're aware, nothing to cause alarm to. It's just from the hard work they put in for 26.2 miles, 4, 5, 6 hours out there. Is there things that this runner should do actively to reduce that soreness in the interim, or is this time?
Yeah, I think time for sure. I think again, good hydration, like we've been talking about. Definitely hopping on maybe a stationary bike just to see if that static movement of the knee kind of alleviates some soreness. Foam rolling of the quads, hamstrings, calves really tend to help. If it's hurting in the joint itself, I would just say let's maybe watch it for the next couple of days, up to a week. If it's still bothering you, then I would definitely encourage you to get it checked out. But if it's something that goes away, starts to dissipate, I think you're kind of in the clear. But again, you won't really know because you just conquered a mountain here, right? So you just want to make sure that you are almost fully recovered until you can make that decision.
Great question. Hopefully that helps. I think we have 2 shout outs from runners. Let's pop those on the screen because I love the shout outs. Shout out from Scott. Scott, wear that medal with pride. Scott, that is right. Put that medal around your neck. I was actually at the pavilion really close, Will, where Anil was. We were medal engraving there. There's finisher gear at the pavilion, which the pavilion is located at the finish line. It's at Tavern of the Green, 67th Street in Central Park. People get medal engraved, and everyone was wearing those medals. It's a great sea of people walking up that last hill in Central Park, getting that medal. So put those medals on with pride. I love it. And one more shout out, I think we have shout out to MJ. Does great work on finishing the TCS New York City Marathon. And MJ, you're right. Every single person who finished the marathon is an achievement. So great job out there. So Anil, I want to talk about what's next. We finished the race. A lot of people might be finishing and wanting to do another one. They're wanting to, faster time or more enjoy the race instead of focusing on a time goal. They say, I want to run another one. What should we look for in terms of that next marathon from your perspective, a physical therapist? Are we looking to recover first and then start? When do we start training again to avoid injuries? Kind of talk about that next process.
Yeah, I think right now it's kind of it's almost that honeymoon phase, right? You just accomplished something fantastic, and right now you can make some pretty quick decisions like, oh, I want to do another one right away. Or, I think I need to wait a while too. But I don't think you can make the best decision until you feel 100% fully recovered, right? And so that's why, you want to take the good amount of time. They usually say about every hour that you're running out there, you're going to take about a week off or so. And again, that doesn't mean that you're stopping running. That just means that you're working on active recovery. So that could be cross training, doing maybe swimming, biking, walking, or maybe just some light jogs, no hills, no speeds, things like that. That can be, going in the cold plunge, hot tub, foam rolling, stretching, things like that, so your body can adequately recover. But I think, the biggest thing about this whole journey from training to accomplishing your goal right now is finding out about yourself, right? So almost like knowing how you feel right now. If your knee is sore, know what that feels like. Maybe even write it down too, because again, through that whole process too, you want to make sure that you're not developing an injury. The same lingering things aren't happening over and over again. Because if those things do happen, then there is probably something within your body that needs to be addressed. Maybe it's a glute weakness, maybe it's a core stability issue, but we don't want to have the same things happen over and over again as you then try to run your next marathon. Because maybe this knee soreness that you're feeling right now, potentially for the next marathon, if it's not addressed, it can be a actual injury of the knee. So again, I think journaling throughout your process of training, definitely how you feel now, today, and the next week or so is going to be super important moving forward.
I love the idea of journaling. We tell athletes in their training cycle to journal. Once again, you're journaling your distance and your time, your mileage, your pace, but it's also what you wore, how you felt, what'd you eat, how'd you sleep, all that, and what you wear, all that plays a factor in your race day, because then it's like, oh, it's going to be 55 degrees out and it's raining. I know what to wear because I've done that before, and I wrote down what I wore, and that item of clothing worked or didn't work. So it's kind of, but then I love that idea of afterwards, Anil. So I had a knee, and my knee was sore afterwards, and I wore these shoes. I'm sure as a physical therapist, that helps you if someone comes in 2 weeks to really diagnose, okay, the knee started hurting at mile 20, I had these shoes on, they had 400 miles on them. That could help you, I'm sure, as a physical therapist to really figure out what happened. And then you have 20 weeks also of data of journaling to figure out really, maybe they felt something at 10 weeks out from the marathon, and maybe that did or didn't affect that knee injury or that knee soreness. So I'm sure all that kind of stuff kind of comes together as a physical therapist, and I see it as a coach to kind of really help diagnose some issues.
Absolutely. Yep.
Love it. So Anil, some athletes out there, they're doing, we call them the back-to-back marathoners. They maybe did Chicago and then they did a TCS, New York City Marathon. Some might be doing Philadelphia Marathon in 2 weeks. It's a small group of people out there that are back-to-back marathons. What does it look like? We just finished the TCS New York City Marathon, and we'll have to say we're doing Chicago or the Philadelphia Marathon soon. What do those 2, 3, 4 weeks look like in between marathons for you from the physical therapist side?
Yeah, I think, the good news is that you put in the mileage already, right? Your body knows how to handle that load. However, you still need the time to recover. So if you're going to have that tight schedule, then you need to have a pretty disciplined or tight schedule of recovery too. So if that means that you have to carve time out to work on corrective exercises, like your monster walks, like your glute bridges, clamshells, et cetera, you could do that. Or if that means if you have to seek services for proper recovery, whether that be the things that we offer here at the hospital for a plethora of different recovery services, as well as performance services, I think that would be fantastic. Because again, the more data that you have now will kind of lead to a good result for your next race that's super quick in that time frame. So for instance, like we have a variety of testing here where you can see literally how much you have recovered, how much lactic acid is in your body, that soreness build up there. So again, how much you're expelling throughout your body as well too, and different strategies to help you with that. And then of course, there are other places like if you're involved in like certain gyms or clubs where they might have recovery things like a cold plunge, like massage, or maybe again even some intense cross training, like a yoga class, like a Pilates class, to still have you recover while letting your muscles still get stimulus, so that way you can hop back on the road.
I will say cold plunge. I'll put that aside. I'll take the massage over cold plunge. So maybe everyone has their way to recover. I love the massage better than the cold plunge. But hey, whatever works best for athletes. I want to jump to shout outs and questions from you all out there. What do we got, AJ? All right. We have a great shout out from Jeffrey. Jeffrey says, good job by getting to Central Park and to the finish line. Exactly, Jeffrey. Good job to everyone. We made it from Staten Island all the way to Central Park in Manhattan. So congratulations to everyone. I think we have one more question. Let's see what we got. If you guys have any other questions, please put them in the chat and we'd love to answer them. So Anil, right away, it looked like this is for you. I had pain in my left low back and my left knee after mile 20. Do you think these are related? Should I use a massage tool or a foam roller for pain relief?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really depends on who you ask and what their kind of schools of thought are. Personally, for me, I think everything is kind of connected. And if you're talking about the left low back, hip, knee, ankle, everything, I think it's really all connected. Especially like, the way you're landing. Running is a single-legged sport. You're jumping from one leg to the next. So therefore, potentially on that left side around mile 20, potentially that left side was compromised a little bit. And therefore you're having left low back pain, left knee pain. So they could definitely be related. If, again, it starts to persist maybe in the next coming days, I would definitely get it checked out. I wouldn't even mess with it too much, especially if we're talking about the low back. So again, you can get it checked out by a sports PT, your physician, our physicians at the hospital as well too, to get a fully, good understanding of what's going on. In the time being, I would definitely, again, continue to move, continue to do some, some active stretching, maybe not static stretching right now, as you may be in a little bit too much pain, but things of like foam rolling could be fantastic. The massage tool, I'm assuming you're talking about like a massage gun. You could do that. I would just do it on a very low setting. And you don't want to do anything around a bony area for a massage gun. So anything that has some good muscle, is where you're going to want to do that. But again, movement is going to be the key, and you're going to really know in the next coming days if it's lingering, if it's a sharp pain, things of that nature. So you might want to get it checked out.
Really great. Good luck on that injury, and congratulations on the marathon. One more came in while you were chatting. Notice we got one more question coming from a runner. Last one is, what would be your best tip in how to recover this week? Is there anything I should be eating, drinking to help my recovery? I think we kind of answered this, Anil, but I think it's a great way to kind of sum up this chat. What are we looking for in the best things we can do this week to have the best recovery?
Yeah, I think, if we can kind of pull up the point at, good hydration, good nutrition is going to be the start. You want to start recovering from the inside out, doing as much as you can. Definitely want to stay active, whatever that means, walking, biking, foam rolling, simple stretches, things of that nature, to your muscles staying, joints lubricated, so that way everything is staying nice and pliable. And then, anything else that has worked for you over your training regimen. So, again, some people like different aids like compression stockings, compression boots, cold plunge, as we talked about earlier, massage, things of that nature. So, as long as you stay moving and you keep your body stimulated, so it doesn't go into like a shock or an intense soreness, I think you're going to be on the right track.
I love that. I think we have one more coming in, but before that question pops in here, can you talk about what a cold plunge is? Is this just me in the bathtub with, I think, some ice around me? What is a cold plunge, and how does it benefit athletes?
Yeah. The only reason I bring it up so much is because it's become a very popular fad these days. It's been around forever, but the internet kind of took it by storm. And basically, it's just something where you can submerge your body, your whole body, or a body region for a particular amount of time and it stays at a nice, consistent cold temperature. And from there, what happens is that your blood vessels kind of constrict, and then as soon as you come out of it, they rapidly expand and therefore kind of flush out any of that swelling that you might have in a certain area. So it kind of really like shocks the body a little bit to help with good circulation. It can also help with soothing sore muscles or painful areas by that numbing effect of the ice as well too. But really, you can kind of get creative. You can do the bathtub trick, or they have fancy stuff out there. But you really shouldn't be in there for more than about anywhere from like 1 to 3 minutes or so. But of course, everyone's a little bit different. And of course, if you start to lose feeling in those extremities and whatnot, you're gonna want to jump on out.
Love it. We have one more coming in here. It popped up while you were explaining that, which I love. Let's see. Despite hydrating and taking gels throughout the race yesterday, as well as other races through the run up to the TCS New York City Marathon, I still finding myself pretty intense headache post-race. Ooh, any insight? That's interesting. Headaches after the race. I haven't heard that one before. What about you?
Yeah, I think it seems like yes, you are hydrating pretty well. Gels, that's good. Again, I think if we're looking from the inside out perspective, good hydration and nutrition. We'll start with that first, and then after that, it could be sometimes as you're in the sun for a certain amount of hours, the sun rays is kind of beating down on your head too, will cause a lot of that tension, almost like a little bit of a swelling within the head as well too. It can cause some kind of headaches as well. But again, I would definitely look from a losing of bodily fluids first, probably the sun next, if you weren't wearing like any hat or headgear or whatnot. And then the other thing too is just simply could be muscular fatigue. A lot of times as we're fatiguing, your body's going to want to tighten up, right? You're going to want to bring those shoulders up to the ears, especially as it gets cold too. Bringing the shoulders up to the ears. What happens? All of the musculature in the head, in the neck, become constricted, therefore pulling on the head, giving you a headache there. So that's probably the more plausible answer, but it could be a nice rounded answer there because as you're losing fluid, even as you're running, you're going to get colder, and therefore your body's going to tighten up, and then therefore, again, these things can happen.
Interesting. I love it. We have one shout out, and let's see what this last shout out is we have from runners. Mandy said, I had a great day spectating yesterday. I'm so inspired and the spectators were out so fast in the course. They were so loud and they had so much fun out there. So thank you, Maddie, and everyone for a great chat. Anil, thank you so much for joining us.
Congratulations to everyone as well.
Thank you guys so much. Anil, HSS, thank you. And we'll see you next time. Good luck, runners.